So tonight I am going to be making my hair bows that I do for my business. So I am just in Design Space right now and I'm clicking on my projects. I'm going to scroll down. I have a lot of projects that I've made. I literally save all of them. But this one right over here is the one I'm going to use tonight. It's my hair bow pattern. This is a pattern that I made myself in Design Space, which I can show you guys another time. But I'm going to click Customize It down here at the bottom, because I actually need 2 of these cut out. So I'm gonna, here it is. It's very simple. All I did was go to shapes over here. And I did a circle and a square, and I adjusted the circles and squares to be the sizes that I needed for my hair bow and welded them together to make one single cut. That is something that we can elaborate on in another time, but I'm just going to run you through these hair bows. So I clicked make it. It's going to bring it to my mat, but I need to cut 2 of them. An easy way to do that is just to go up and hit apply. And now there's 2 on here. But since I'm cutting a cotton fabric, I personally just like a little more space between them. So I'm just going to drag this over just a hair, and then I'm going to hit continue. Sometimes it takes a minute to connect to my maker. So tonight I am cutting this adorable XOXO fabric. It's just a cotton. All I did was press it, laid it out on my mat, and then I used my brayer to really make sure that the fabric is pressed down evenly. This is a Cricut tool and it is a must-have if you are planning on doing any fabric projects. And I'm also doing this on the pink mat, which is your fabric mat. Okay, so back over here in Design Space, I am going to click on cotton fabric. I'm going to make sure I have my rotary blade in place, which I already do. And then you'll notice that once I did that and selected my material, this light started flashing. So we're going to put my mat in and hit that button to feed it into the machine. And then now that this is flashing, I'm going to just hit the start and it's going to start cutting it. This is a pretty quick cut. It's a very simple shape, so it shouldn't take long at all. It just has to warm up and think about it first. It always makes sure that you have the correct tool in place. So if you forgot to put in your rotary blade, it would let you know, and then you could quickly swap it out. And then begin your cut. So it is done. It's flashing. I'm going to hit that to get the rest of the mat out. And then we're just going to remove the fabric from the mat. Now sometimes it doesn't cut all the way around my shape perfectly, like this one did very well. So that one's done. But I can already tell like there's a few spots where this one kind of got hung up. So I'm just going to take my little scissors here and clip out anything left over. A way to kind of avoid this is to, one, maybe make sure that your blade is sharp. I probably need to change my rotary blade. I use it a lot. Make sure the blade is clean. And also, sometimes you may, depending on the fabric, have to put more pressure as an option. So when you're back over here in Design Space, where it says pressure default, you can click on that and you can click more, default, or less. So if your blade starts to become a little dull and you're not ready to switch it out yet, you can try doing more pressure and that will maybe help it get through some cuts. But you also have to be careful that with more pressure, you're gonna cut into your mat a little bit, and we don't wanna damage our mats too much because we wanna make them last. So I'm gonna trim this out, take 2 seconds, but it also requires 2 hands. Actually, it looks like it's just a few little pieces. And then we'll begin the next steps of making our hair bow. Okay, so now we have our 2 pieces. And what I like to do is I set my iron to cotton because that's what I'm pressing here. I do like to have a lot of steam. That's just personal preference. And I like to do a quick steam over on my two pieces, and then I'm going to put them right sides together. Just like so. And I'm going to press them together. This just makes it easier when sewing. You can flip it over and do both sides if you like. But can you see how with the Cricut cutting my pattern, it is perfect. They match up perfectly. If I was to cut this by hand, I can guarantee it would not be this perfect. So it just makes it easier. You're gonna have some strings or whatever. It just depends on the quality of your fabric and the print and everything. But now we are ready to sew this. Some people may prefer to do some pinning along the edges. That's your personal preference. I don't like to spend the time on pinning. I'm pretty good without it. I just think if you do a quick press, it kind of adheres them together pretty well, and then we're good to get to sew. So let's go sew. Okay, so here we are at my machine. I have done nothing but turn it on. Due to the color of my material, I am just going to do a white stitch around it, but I may swap out my thread to do the final stitch that's visible on the outside. We'll just kind of play it by ear. But what I want to do is I prefer to move my foot over as far as I can to the right. So on my machine, it's this simple. There we go. Okay, so when you're sewing this together, you're sewing right sides together, correct? So obviously we need to leave a space open to be able to turn it right side out. So we're gonna leave one side open. So whichever side you're gonna leave open, you're gonna wanna start below that, go all the way around, pivot, go up, go all the way around and in. So this gap is open for turning it. So I'm gonna start down here at the bottom, and I try to get pretty close to this corner. I drop my foot. My fabric is right along the edge here of my foot, and I try my best as I'm going around this curve to keep my foot and this fabric on the same mark. It's what I've done. It works for me. So I'm going to drop my foot, or my needle, I'm sorry. I'm going to drop my needle. And then we're just going to get to sewing. I have it set at a 2.5 width stitch, so it's pretty straightforward. I use some basic stitching here. I do a couple stitches, and then I do a few back stitches, and then we move on. You always want to back stitch at the beginning and end when you first get started on a stitch to lock it in place so it doesn't become frayed and come apart. I take the curves pretty slow. You don't want to end up with gathering and unevenness. It would be very visible in the hair bow if you did. All right, so when I get to this point, I'm going to lift my foot, I'm going to turn my fabric, and now I'm going to come down this straight edge. Make a few stitches into the circle, and then we're going to pivot the foot, lift it, and then go right back around this circle. Some people might find this easier with a walking foot instead of a standard foot. To me, I'm kind of used to it either way. So here I am at the end. I'm just going to back stitch a few, and then we're good. We're going to lift our needle and our foot, and we're just going to trim that off. So now we have it stitched, and we have an opening right here. The next step, and this isn't necessary, but I feel like it makes it a cleaner bow, is to take some shears, some fabric shears, and just clip around, like little inserts around the circle part of the bow. You are going to clip almost to that thread, but not the thread. You do not want to undo the stitching you just did with your machine. This just helps when you turn it, that this bulk of fabric that's here in your seam allowance is not gonna get create an ugly bow. We also want to make sure we trim our strings. And we'll do the other side. There have been times where I have forgotten to do this step. I'm in a hurry, whatever. It's not a big deal, but if you want to get it done perfectly, this is my recommendation. All right, so we're now ready to turn the bow. So I just start with one side and push it through, and you're just turning it right side out. There's a couple of different tools that you can use to get these out. You can use one of these tools. These are great for pushing out corners, especially this end. You want to be careful not to use something too sharp, and you don't want to poke through the fabric. So this is a great option. Kind of put it in there and run along that seam. If you do not have this tool, you can use something as simple as the end of a pen, as long as it's got the cap on it. Obviously you don't want to use an open pen, and we're just gonna, again, follow along the edge of the seam to get our circle filled out. Just a little finagling, and then it'll be all set. So there we go. We have our bow turned. How cute is that so far? So the next step is to go back to the ironing board. We're gonna do some quick pressing, and we're gonna turn this closed so we can do our final stitch, and then we'll put our bow together. So sometimes when you're stitching these, this part here and here going into the straightaway on either side sometimes doesn't want to come all the way out. So one thing that I do, and you have to be careful, you're using a hot iron here, is I will poke it out, push that seam out, and then I hold it with my finger. And then I do the other one. Usually one is on one side is worse than the other. And hold it with my finger, and I literally just hold it down to my ironing board in place. And I carefully get my iron in place, and I press that side. And then I come over and do the other one, and that way that seam pops out as far as it will. Still may not be perfectly circle and round, but that's okay. Remember, we're doing handmade, not perfection. Sometimes my circles are just flawless, and sometimes they're not, and it just kind of depends. So, but when you finish them off, it's really hard to tell. Okay, so I'm just kind of pressing the center part smooth and flat. So now that we have it pressed, we're gonna want to fold in this center part. And you can cut strings, but you can just tuck them. So we're just gonna fold in a little bit. Maybe 1/4 of an inch, like very little. And press that down, and then carefully flip it over. If it's a little hot, let it set for a second and cool off, or shake it off. And then we're gonna turn in the other side. And now we have both of our edges turned in, so when we stitch across here, it's nice and clean and there's no frayed edges. So let's go do our final stitch. So I did decide to go ahead and change out my bobbin and my thread on my machine. This is just a pale pink. It doesn't match perfectly, but it's not gonna be as visible as like a white would be on this print. So I'm choosing to make a quick switch. I have a machine that has a top load bobbin, so it makes it super easy to change it out very quickly. And it's also nice because it's easy with the clear top to see how much bobbin I have left as I'm sewing so that I don't run out halfway through sewing my project. So I'm just gonna set that over there. So I'm just using this for a short little bit. So I'm just gonna throw this up here. Most of my thread I sit back behind on one of these little guys. So, all right, let's thread it up real quick. The hardest part for me is always getting it through the needle. There are needle threader tools, like little things that you can get, but I just usually eyeball it. And there we go. All right, so we are set. Just want to put this under my foot. And yeah, so I am, again, gonna leave this needle as far over to the right as I possibly can so that most of my fabric is under my foot, and that's what gives you your control. We are going to, you can do it, start on either side, but we're gonna start here and we're gonna start in this corner where we finished our stitch around the circle, and we're gonna go along this very edge. And I mean, as close to the edge as you can, because we remember we didn't tuck a whole lot underneath here. So we need to make sure that we catch both sides of the fabric so we get a nice closed stitch through here. So I'm just gonna eyeball this. You can see I'm not keeping it in line with my foot. I'm more just making sure that my needle is following along this edge. Also, this is kind of like a curved shape, so it's not a straight line as much anymore. So we're gonna do a couple stitches. We're gonna back stitch always, and then we're gonna go back all the way across, close to the edge. Get to the other side, back stitch, and we're good to go. We're gonna lift our needle, lift our foot. And if you don't have a little, that's what I'm doing back here. There's a built-in blade that cuts my threads. But if you don't have that, just use your scissors. I typically still have to trim some threads. I had some long ones, so let me trim all of those. Okay. Hope I got one more. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now we have our bow with a single stitch all the way across the front here. The next part is kind of the fun part. You get to play with it, but what we're gonna do is just tie a knot. So we're just gonna wrap it around and pull it through like you would start a bow, like tying your shoe. And you're gonna tug this ear, as I call them. These are like my little ears. So you're gonna tug this ear, and then you're gonna come over here and tug this ear, and then this ear, and you're just gonna kind of go back and forth and finagle them until they are equal in size as best as you can, and that they look the way that you want them to. So look, obviously this one's bigger than this one, so I need to tug a little more on this one and figure it out. So I don't pull them too tight, especially with cotton, because you don't want them to get stretched out too far. You don't want this knot to be too small. You want them to have some shape. So this is what I have so far. And yeah, as you can see, my circles are not perfect. And when you tie it, it looks better than it did laying flat, you know? So like where it kind of was a little more straight lines and going into that center part, that you can't even notice anymore. So don't get worried about that, because really this round part right here is what you're gonna see. So take those stitches around those circles slowly until you get more comfortable with it. I typically go much faster with it, but for tonight's showing and this video, I just wanted to go pretty slow and show you guys. All right, so the next part is really easy. There's a couple of ways to do this. We're gonna attach an alligator clip to the back of this, and I'll show you that in a second. I use hot glue, but you can use different types of glues, Gorilla Glues, E6000. But we're just gonna hot glue this, and then this little bow is gonna be ready to go to a new home for a little doggy to wear in her hair. How cute is that for Valentine's Day? Okay, so now we're going to attach our alligator clip to our hair bow. I am actually going to do 2 hair bows. This is another one I made while waiting for my hot glue gun to heat up. That's going with this one in the same order. This is a little paisley print. Super cute, very spring. So you can decide which side you want to be the front of your bow. I personally like this side better than that side, but it's preference. But I'm making these, and I think these just hold the shape on the front, and they just stand up really cute in the hair. So we're gonna make this the front, so we're gonna wanna put our clip on the back. These are the clips I'm using. Just very basic little alligator clips. They have the little teeth in them, so it stays in the hair very well. These are 1 3/4 inch alligator clips. I'm gonna be using my Lynn Lilly Surebonder hot glue gun. This is my favorite hot glue gun because it comes with a stand, but did you notice there's no cords attached to it when I take it from the stand? The cord is on the stand, and that's the heating, that's what heats it. So it is hot. It also has a very fine tip, so it's perfect for using on these skinny little clips. So basically I'm gonna hold it underneath, and I am going to put hot glue down the length of this top to bottom. Flip it over, stick it right in the middle of that knot, and then I'm just gonna press it down, the bow down onto the clip. And you're gonna hold it there for 30 seconds or so. Thankfully, hot glue dries pretty quickly. You want to make sure that you don't get hot glue on the around and off the top of that, because you still need to be able to open your clip. And there you go. And there's our first little bow with its clip. We're going to do the other one real quick. You also want to make sure that your ears on your bow are exactly how you want them. And we're just gonna hold it. And there is our Valentine's bow ready to go. So I'm gonna package these up and send them out to a little puppy to wear for Valentine's and the spring. And we also have matching bandanas for these too. All right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial on how to make the little hair bows, knotted hair bows that I do for my business. If you're interested in getting a hair bow for your puppy or for your little girl, you can visit biscuitbellboutique.com, and we will have plenty of hair bows and all sorts of designs and prints and styles. See you next time. Thank you for watching my hair bow tutorial on how to make knotted hair bows. I hope you've enjoyed it and you learned something new. If you are looking to purchase our hair bows, you can visit biscuitbellboutique.com. There's a link in the description. I will also include links and information about the products I used in this tutorial if you need help finding them. Be sure to give us a like and a subscribe, and be sure to hit that bell so you're notified the next time we do a tutorial. Stay crafty!